listeners. Welcome back to the Dethroning Your Inner Critic podcast. I am really excited for the conversation I am about to have today with Natalie Bedard. She is the founder of Lift OneSelf, which provides energy healing, and she has a deep understanding of the nervous system and specializes in unraveling emotional blockages and reigniting intuitive connections to guide you to embrace your fullest potential. So you are speaking my language, Nat. I'm really excited to get into this conversation today.
I am too, and thank you so much for having me. And what a gracious intro that you just gave me. And before we started recording, we were getting already deep in the conversation. So I'm looking forward to this natural flowing, deep flowing conversation we're going to get into.
Absolutely. Today, whenever you're listening to this today, when we're recording, it happens to be the first day of school for Nat's boys and my daughter. And so we were just kind of talking about all of the inner critic feelings, right? That surface on a day like today. So let's just start by talking about how you got into the business that you're in.
Well, I almost died. It's going to come 11 years. Like I started getting sick in November. So yeah, I had lesions in my brainstem and my cerebellum. And so yeah, I kept going to my family doctor and kept going to the ER. My family doctor kept sending me to the ER because she's like, I can't treat you. And then the ER just kept saying you have the flu. And I was like, if
Oh,
this is the flu, I'm going to take like 100 flu shots. So my body was shutting down tremendously.
yeah.
And once they recognized in the MRI that I had the lesions, they gave me a prognosis of 6 months
Oh,
to live. So they admitted me right away. They had to find a bed somewhere in the hospital for me. Right away, it was like lumbar punctures. I remember when I got my blood drawn out because they were testing me for a whole bunch. The nurse had said, this is the most blood I have drawn in one sitting for somebody because they're testing you for everything.
wow.
So in that, I really got to face what death was for me in my
Mm,
belief system. I
mm,
also got a seat into the nervous system because everything shut down. So it was like a clean slate. I was almost like a baby coming through the birthing canal and seeing this new world again and
oh,
trying to interact with these chemical dumps that are coming through. And I had some belief systems, but a lot of them were removed because of the fear and the anticipation that what is there to hold on to? I have to be in priority of taking care of the boys because I was a solo parent at the time.
wow.
And as you mentioned, like I have twin boys that are 14 right now, and then I have an oldest that's 29. At the time of my lesions, the boys were 4 and my oldest was 18.
Wow.
So in that discovery, I went through a battery of tests, got to understand the medical system in a in a profound way also, because I was almost there for 40 days. And I even got transferred from one hospital to another, and they were going to do a brain biopsy. Yet the head doctor said, halt on that. Everything that we're doing biopsies on is coming back atypical, yet not information to give a diagnosis. And if we take a piece of her brain, we could do more damage and still end up with no information. So I was released from the hospital without a diagnosis. So that means without a plan.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, I had to go through the fires of re learning myself, relearning parenting,
Hmm.
cultivating my health again, going through the grief of, letting go of my old life and my old body and my old ways and coming back into what is presently here and having surrender, which is acceptance of the as is. And
Yes.
let me tell you, that inner critic came up a lot. So I really having to use that mindfulness, and pain was very debilitating for me.
Oh,
So what was extremely frustrating is that all of a sudden I'd have a lot of energy, but like a lit light switch, it would turn right off. and then I'd have no energy, but there would be no signs that it's coming or this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a lot of adjustment of rechanging my lifestyle, rechanging how I showed up with people,
Wow.
really understanding the 4 F's of the nervous system and what I had created as an identity for
Mm.
myself. And then fast forward about a year after, that's when I learned meditation. And then meditation brought me profoundly within the nervous system and releasing somatically a lot of emotions because I experienced a lot of trauma when I was a child.
Right.
So being able to engage with the full charge, not just intellectualizing it and compartmentalizing it,
Mhm.
actually allowing myself to re-look at those experiences and feel my authentic emotions, not
Yes.
the ones that protected me in that moment to be able to survive in those instances and in my surroundings.
Mm.
Actually having gentle eyes to allow that vulnerability to actually feel what I was actually feeling.
Yeah.
And that takes profound work because the defense mechanisms of the nervous system want to protect you because
Yes.
they believe that that memory is still too difficult for you to feel those authentic emotions.
Mm.
It's the work for you to understand your nervous system and start creating safety in your body,
Yeah.
that you have the ability to feel these energies that are or that are surfacing and wanting to be released.
Right.
Uh, and that, it's warrior work, like I say it.
Oh,
And as I said, they told me I was going to die. I wasn't going to be able to walk. I wouldn't be able to run. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things, drive again, and all these things I'm able to do again.
wow.
And still no diagnosis of why the lesions came and how they, diminished. They left some scarring in my brain. So again, the energy and pain is still there,
Mm-hmm.
yet it's just a way of life. It's not something that gets signaled all the time. So
Wow.
I'm able to interact with my body and listen to the cues and um, you know, see the BS that I might be creating in my own life by repeating old patterns and trying to go back to something that I think is comfort, which actually it's toxic for me.
Yeah.
Yet because it's, decades of a pattern that you've created, a lot of times people think healing like, oh, it's all gone away. And it's like, well, no, the work is when it comes to visit again, that you don't allow it to take control
Mm.
over your dominion, over your behavior, over your thought processes.
Wow.
So it's the constant work because
Yeah.
life is going to throw you new experiences.
Always, always. So, okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Okay, so you're given 6 months to live, right? Now, can you just kind of walk us through uh what were some of the old defense mechanisms and what do you think that you were avoiding looking at? And can you walk us through how you transitioned from avoiding those emotions and those memories and those experiences to recognizing that it was imperative for you to, kind of face them head on? Can you tell us
Yeah.
about that? Yeah.
Hindsight is 2020. So when you're in the moment, you don't really have the verbiage for what you're experiencing. And so listening to other people's stories, that's where you start to, oh, that sounds familiar to me. And it's giving me some verbiage to have context.
Yep.
The trauma separated me from self. And so in that, it didn't allow me to know my worth. I always felt like I was outside of, the worth of people, outside of belonging.
Yeah.
So in that, my identity became a people pleaser.
Yes.
And so that's one of, if we understand fawn from the 4 F's of the nervous system,
Hmm.
it's, you start to please others because one, it gives you a great sense of value and sense of worth when you see other people light up and that you've relieved them from their pain or suffering or any kind of problems that they have.
Yep.
And also it helps you to run away from actually your responsibilities of what you need to get done in your own life. Like I always say, it's easy to clean somebody else's house than it is to clean your own.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So in that, because I didn't have enough energy, automatically this was wiped away from me.
Mm.
It was like, you have limited energy, so you have to be able to take care of your boys and yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's very easy to say this, but the old patterns will try to come in. So me having to face those old patterns and have some conversations with myself to really see, like, why are you doing this? What is activating this?
Yeah.
And was my gift that I didn't really understand it. Like, I have a profound way that people co-regulate their nervous system with mine,
Mm.
and I have very deep listening skills, so people feel very safe to
Yeah.
reveal a lot of secrets to me.
Mm.
And what I also did to engage with understanding that, okay, you're people pleasing, you're running away from your emotions, all that. I did some very radical things. I removed alcohol. I removed sex. I removed spending for a year. I removed the type of lifestyle of running. So, and I think the biggest one, when the no spending for a year,
Mm.
I only bought like, I think it was 6 pair of underwear, 2 bras, 2 pair of running shoes, and the rest it was like, there's just necessities. I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing that was difficult for me was the dollar store. Like, I don't think we understand on the dollar store. Sometimes we're like, oh, we
Oh,
can.
that's not really spending money. It's just, yeah, that doesn't really count. Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah.
So anytime I'd show up there and I'd be like, I'd have to go to the why. Why are you here? Why are you spending? Why? And then really get to the crux of feeling that emotion so it could be revealed. And
Mm.
then processing it and
Yeah.
allowing there to be a messiness of processing. Because
Yeah.
my default was anger and frustration. Because
Mm.
anger and frustration want to protect your vulnerability.
Yes.
So to be vulnerable, it's like, I don't know how to be this with myself.
Yes.
So allowing that space for it to be messy, uncomfortable
Hmm.
was path to go through.
Yeah.
And it's in real time, because a lot of times we have theories that we know what to do. We know what to do, yet it's like, are you applying it?
Yes.
And a lot of times we'll be like, well, no, it's the concept is really great, but the practicality is needed for you to really start engaging in change and
Uh,
regulating your nervous system.
yes. Yes. So, one of the things that I talk a lot about in my personal life is that uh, being an entrepreneur, right, a business owner, and being a mom. I think those two areas for me um, were, we talked about this before we started recording, right, were my biggest spiritual awakenings, right? They still provide the biggest catalyst for growth and change for me. So I'm just curious for you, as you're navigating this journey, you've got kids, you've got business, you've got right health issues that thank goodness there's a lot of healing, but there's still, health issues that you're navigating. So how do you right now in your life continue to navigate sort of um what I call unhooking from that automatic mind when it starts to, kind of take you down the rabbit hole?
Honesty. It's
Mm.
cultivating honesty and allowing there to be a space of honesty of, what am I actually feeling? What
Mm.
is safety?
Yeah.
And naming things, because once you name it, then it can be seen. Like we were just talking beforehand, a
Mhm.
lot of parents today on the first day of school they're having parental anxiety. And a
Mm.
lot of them don't know how to even acknowledge or call it out,
Yeah.
because we're in a society that you don't fear, you tough it out, you look strong, all this stuff. Yet
Yeah,
our children can feel, like, nervous systems feel before any kind of language.
for
And
sure.
so when you feeling that vibration, your children will be like, there's something off, but you're trying to portray this mask. So
Yes.
for me, it's being able to acknowledge what I'm actually feeling and
Mm.
having safety within myself for that. And as you said, for the spiritual practice, I think parenting is the highest spiritual practice you could have to learn about yourself,
For sure.
because your children are going to reveal things that you may have pushed in your subconscious.
Yeah.
Yet now it's being shown, and it's either you blame them and shut it down, or you're willing to look at that reflection and, dust off that mirror to get back to your greatness, to remove those layers of pain that have been sheltering you from your greatness within yourself.
Absolutely. So, Nat, what are your specific, deeply ingrained beliefs that you can see you dragged with you through, through your life, and how do they continue to show up now?
Not good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not good enough shows
Yep.
up all the
Yep.
time.
All the time.
And then the fear into my parenting that there's certain personalities are going to get them into trouble, not seeing the strength of it,
Mhm.
not having the acceptance of it, and having to really take some deep breaths to, interrupt those patterns and
Yes.
acknowledge what I'm doing and create the change, which is very difficult because sometimes you're in full throttle drive and you want to go reverse. And anybody that's driven a car, it's to do that unless you're driving automatic, it's very difficult. Like your transmission is going to drop out.
Right.
So really anchoring into my breath and having that honesty, but
Yeah.
that not good enough shows up in
Every-
everywhere, and it's insidious. And I know it, like intellectually, I can name it, I can call it out. It's
Yes.
the feelings that the nervous system, the previous like if you understand the nervous system, it's always gathering information.
Mm-hmm.
And so certain experiences it has labeled as let's not repeat this. So
Yes.
any experiences you're in right now, the nervous system's like, oh, this feels like this event that happened. So it's igniting these feelings. It doesn't know past, present, or future.
Right.
So your work is to anchor in the present to remind yourself what happened before isn't happening now.
Yes.
And to be in your intuition too. Yet to be in your intuition, you need to do your work to acknowledge the fear so that it's not all staticky when you're hearing the transmission,
Yes.
that you can feel the emotions, you can acknowledge yourself and give yourself space.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that you and I are both, speak sort of the same understanding that we're really not able to ever get rid of the fear, right? That it's really building the muscle and the ability to sort of sit in it and to use those nervous system cues, right? I call those the indication signs, right? That automatic mind has kind of grabbed us by the throat again. So what are the ways that when you are really immersed in your I'm not good enough, right? Wherever that's showing up in your life, what do you do to unhook yourself from that once you identify it?
Uh, if it, as long as it doesn't take me on a long stream, because sometimes I'm not identifying it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it's slowing things down and acknowledging, okay, what am I feeling? And
Yes.
it's time where we don't really acknowledge our emotions and let ourselves process and feel it.
Yeah.
When you allow yourself to do it, then when they come up, they'll be able to signal to you
Mhm.
because emotions are data, they're information. Yet a
Yeah.
lot of times we don't want to hear the information
Right.
because sometimes it will have us feeling helpless. Like the first day of school, a lot of parents are feeling helplessness, and
Yeah.
we don't know how to navigate in that. We're
Mhm.
not able to be, I don't know, and be safe in the I don't know.
Yeah.
So the things that when I know that I'm in the muck of it,
Yeah.
my lotus roots are like, oh, well, we got to go in the roots. It's like, okay, find the things that will engage play. Find the things that will open the openness so that you can interact and open up the space
Mm.
of letting whatever is trying to surface to actually go and surface
Yeah.
and be released and processed, because this event, this situation is probably going into some unknown and uncertainty, and you're not knowing how to traverse in this without going to the default of the patterns of not being good enough. So
Yes.
being able, and I think, I'm here to remove that stigma that fear is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's to learn how to harness fear. Because if you
The
didn't have fear,
messenger.
you die.
Yeah.
It, yeah, like, and I think a lot of people are being harmed by thinking that fear will be all ridden and nothing will impact you again. And
Yeah.
it's like, there's no such thing. Like, fear is here to allow you to understand your environment,
Yes.
and be able to use the chemicals to be able to access what is needed in that moment.
Yeah.
And so if we understand the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, we have to understand, yes, there is a lot of psychological fear that is not needed. There is a difference between psychological fear and innate physical fear that
Yeah.
is going on. And
Yeah.
it's being able to process that and give yourself space because you've experienced trauma. And once you do the healing, it doesn't mean it goes away. Like I understand that some people are doing certain ceremonies and it's like this big opening happens and the fear, I understood it. And yeah, you intellectualize it, you understand it. When a life experience comes up, it doesn't mean that it doesn't come back and knock on the door and visit again.
Absolutely. That's right. That's
And
right.
so it's being able to be honest with yourself, to
Yeah.
acknowledge it. But a
Yeah.
lot of times we want to act like we're Superwoman or Superman with
Yeah.
our cape, nothing's bothering us, and we can just push through and
Yeah.
forget our humanness. Like we're
Absolutely.
here to have a human experience, not just all spiritual.
Yes. Yep. So, okay, in your business now, right? In navigating all the ups and downs, the twists, the turns of being a business owner, how can you put on loudspeaker your I'm not good enough narrative? Like how that shows up, what it says, when it says it.
Who are you to say the things that you're saying?
Mm,
What things have been proven that are actually working when I'm like, you're living testimony in that. And then when I look at the context of what I've gone through, it's like still it will be, no, that's not good enough.
yeah.
That's not anything. And then when I'm around people and they're like, oh my gosh, you're like a breath of fresh air, and I needed to hear what you said or whatnot,
Yeah.
I get a sense of relief, yet it still will be insidious. Nah, they're just faking. They're just telling you to hear and you didn't really do anything. Like all these kind of narratives come in that I'm much better at it now that it's just like a wind blowing, touching my skin and I
Yeah.
can let it blow.
Right.
Yet some moments they can be really deep and I can feel the activation physically and the frustration and the rigidness that's happening and having to use my tools to regulate and find that safety and acknowledge, that this feels really uncomfortable and I'm scared. I'm feeling afraid.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's the biggest thing for me to be able to acknowledge that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it comes in all the time.
All the time. All the time.
Oh,
So in the throes of that, right? When you're right in the throes of, oh my God, who are you? And this isn't good enough, and you're not good enough, and what you have to say isn't good enough. Um, Tell me how you access your intuitive self.
so can I bring you into a 2-minute meditation, a breath meditation right now, so I can let the listeners actually see what I actually do in time?
So yes, bring us through that meditation, please. I'm gonna close my eyes and do it myself. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And for the listeners, I'm going to ask Joanna and myself to close our eyes. Yet, if you're driving, which most people do when they're listening to a podcast, just don't close your eyes, but you're able to listen to the rest of the cues. So, Joanna, as you're already doing, close your eyes and get comfortable in your seating. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to let your awareness watch the rhythm and just stay with your breath. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up. It's okay. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Now, there may be some thoughts or memories that are coming up in your mind. It's okay. Just gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating a space between the breath and those thoughts, and allowing those feelings and sensations to come up in your body while still staying with your breath and dropping deeper into your body. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Now, while still staying with your breath, it's allowing yourself to acknowledge what you're actually feeling. And able to see those thoughts, yet coming back to your breath, not being identified with the thoughts or tangled into them. Creating a space to see that you're not those thoughts. And allowing those feelings to pass through you to see that you're not those feelings. Just anchoring deeper into your breath, dropping deeper into your body, creating an openness and a spaciousness. Now, while still staying with your breath at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while staying with your breath.
Mm-hmm.
So because I've cultivated this breath exercise and knowing that this is one of my tools, this is the default of where I go to when I'm really spiraling. Yet I also go in this default when I'm in a really good mood and a
Yeah.
good elation. So it's not giving it an identity that you only access this when things are bad. It's to always regulate my mental state. Because
Yeah.
we can get really high in a really great state and
Yeah.
forget this too shall pass and you're going to go back down, and that can have its own difficulty of having that regulation of mood within yourself because the experience is leaving you.
Yeah.
So I know to come to my breath and start regulating. Do I make mistakes? Yeah. Do I yell at my teens sometimes? Heck yeah. Was I drill sergeant mom yesterday? Yes. Yet it's also explaining to the twins what my process is and what I'm going through, and also explaining there's certain experiences that I know that I'm helping you to build some tools for yourself that your brain doesn't want to do. I just want to do it my way, yet I can foresee certain things that this will assist you that you're not seeing in the moment.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, what you just brought all of us through is really about anchoring ourselves in the present moment, right? Whether we are needing to set a boundary with our children or we're immersed in our own version of I'm not good enough. And I love what you just said about um, using this, using the breathing and the presence also when you are on a high. Because, I often talk about this pendulum, right? Where we chase the high and we chase the good feelings. And it actually sets us up to never be able to be in a state of really pure joy and peace and fulfillment and gratitude for exactly what our lives are, who we are right now, where we are right now in our journey.
Yeah.
And I find that so many people, right? I mean, particularly women, I think that have big dreams, that have big goals, can get kind of lost in this um, idea that, either they're waiting to reach the goal or they've already reached the goals and
Yeah.
they're still feeling that profound sense of lack of fulfillment. So I'm curious, given that you are somebody that really experienced a near death experience, right? Has that profound experience helped you to be more present in your life right now?
Oh, totally. When the lesions were there and I was in the hospital, I was so present. People could feel the palpable around me,
Yeah.
that I was just so grounded. And the lesions, once they started diminishing, I don't know what they were accessing in my brain to have me so mindful and in presence.
Mm,
Yet then that was my work too. It was almost like having training wheels on a bike and you're just flowing really great. And
yeah.
then the training wheels are coming off and it's like, okay, can you keep your balance with this now? Can you understand? So I'm always being aware of, am I present? Am I
Mhm.
actually feeling all of the delight in this moment and not have to go back with regret that look at photos of the twins or look at photos with friends and be like, I wasn't fully there.
Yeah.
I was there in body,
Yeah.
yet I didn't really fully take in all the detail and all the brightness
Mm.
and weren't, and also the conversations that we could have had. I
Yeah.
was closed. I was closed in certain ways. And it
Right.
still happens in this moment, yet nothing like it was before the lesions.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were told you have 6 months, is that is that when you got really present? Were you able to find presence and peace and stillness in the face of thinking you
Yeah.
were going to die?
I had it a bit before. Like in my life, I've always kind of had it because a lot of people would be like, how do you always see the positive in like the negative? And
Yeah.
you've gone through so much, and how can you be such a kind person
Mhm.
when you could just, be so awful? And, one of those things is choice, that you have to access your choice of what you're going to do with your experiences. Yet also once like before, when I was debilitated in my bed because I couldn't move, I couldn't, my eyes had, I had vertigo, my eyes were cross-eyed. The lesions had actually pushed my brainstem, and then the physical position of my eyes had moved. And
Wow.
so I couldn't watch anything, I couldn't listen to anything. So I was like trapped inside myself.
Wow.
So really time stood still in that aspect.
Mm.
Afterwards, when I was told I was going to die, a lot of the pressure I put on myself was released. So
Mm.
then I could have safety in my body and enjoy myself, be
Mm.
in the delight of being me. Because a
Wow.
lot of the responsibilities and the pressures and all these things, it's like, there's nothing I can do about this.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was like until you experience it, you don't really understand like how that burden just releases psychologically in
Yes.
your mind, and it
Yeah.
just unravels, and you enter in a dimension, in a place that you're like, how come I didn't know that this was in here? Like, what place is this place? Oh, heaven. Oh,
Mm.
you mean I can have heaven on earth and I can be in delight with myself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And it takes being in full surrender and full acceptance of exactly this moment with whatever is. And um that's to me the hardest muscle to develop, right?
Yeah.
And going back to what you were talking about earlier, it takes a willingness to let yourself experience the emotions that block us from presence. I think most of us we don't even recognize how not present we are, how much of our life is occupied by either reflecting on the dead past or being in this imagined future when really all we have is now. Yeah. Yeah.
Or we're playing dress rehearsal with things that we think are going to happen.
Yes. Right. Right.
A tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, my hope for everybody listening, right? And for the work that you and I do in the world, because it's similar work, um, is that it doesn't take a near death experience, right? That people just really wake up to that there is um, a different reality that awaits you when you're able to or willing to really take yourself on at this level and really understand the difference between that conditioned automatic mind and what is our true nature, which exists really in a different part of ourselves, right? It's like it almost lives in a different part of our brain.
It's because the mind always has to make meaning.
Yes.
And a lot of things, if you don't have meaning on it, you have no idea. Like if somebody curses you out in Mandarin and you don't know Mandarin, you're like,
Right.
oh, okay. You might feel the intensity of, the vibration and the frequency, so you can read certain emotions that, oh, something must be going. Yet you aren't going to take it so personal because you don't have meaning to what the words mean.
Yes.
So when you can surrender a lot of what the mind wants to make meaning for, there's a lot of delight to allow your curiosity to go in that unknown and uncertainty. And that is the work of releasing that the mind always has to make meaning with things. And
Yes.
when it doesn't, it kicks and screams. It doesn't like that.
Right.
It really doesn't like that. And
Hmm.
it's also giving a space of understanding, like you want to try to make meaning, yet it's not necessary. We're
Yes.
safe. We're okay. Creating that safety within yourself to acknowledge when things are activated. Because for me, the definition that I give for ego, sorry, is your defense mechanisms protecting you from your vulnerability.
That's right. That's
Like
right.
nothing is trying to harm you.
Nope.
It's all in the sense of protection. Does it do a massive things with a lot of things? Yes,
Yes.
because it's been wired to protect things that you no longer need protection from.
Right.
And your work is to allow yourself to no longer need that protection. And in simple terms, healing is shifting your perception.
Yes.
Yet it's very challenging to shift your perception when
Yes.
you don't think you have the ability to do that.
It's true. And it's moment by moment shifting the perception, right? It's not even like a permanent state of a shifted perspective. It just is an opportunity to keep examining the difference between our automatic story, that, right, the meaning that gets assigned versus what we are going to consciously assign meaning to and what meaning we're going to assign.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's that mental fortitude. Because for me, what I feel like my experience was I had it all revealed to me and
Mm,
then taken away to build back to come back here because you know what's there.
yes.
So it's like you can have these aha moments and then they disappear, and you're like, but I know I experienced this. So let me work towards that place because I know it's possible. I know it's there because I had that direct experience. And
Yes.
so sometimes people are able to have that aha and stay in that state and just drop a lot of the belief systems and the mind making meaning. Other times people have an aha and experience, yet they have to work at coming back there
Yes.
because they know it's possible.
Yes.
So
Yep.
everybody has their path in this healing process. And when we can explain more of our experiences and have these conversations that dive deeper, that there's not just one way.
No.
And how are you able to relate to yourself? It's not about relating to me. It's about relating to yourself. All I'm doing is giving you a space so that you can start trusting yourself,
Yes.
that you aren't doubting yourself anymore, and that you have the accountability to want to feel joy. When
Yeah.
you've experienced significant pain and trauma,
Hmm.
joy, you don't want to feel that. You
Hmm.
do not want to feel that. Yet, if you aren't feeling that, you aren't feeling the depths of feeling alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And people can actually so overly identify with not feeling joy, right? They might even say intellectually, I want to feel joy, I want to feel peace. But what actually feels safer is that only identity that we've ever known. So, it's interesting. I find often that people don't even recognize that they feel more comfortable in the familiar, even if the familiar is causing us pain,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
patterns.
Patterns,
It's difficult to break patterns when we're human.
for
It's very
sure.
challenging because they come back. And the automation of, because it's very challenging to make decisions. It's energy depleting. So
Yes.
when you're in automation, you just do whatever. There's no real energy being depleted in that. When you
Yeah.
have to make choices and actually look at things directly and have presence, it's
Yeah.
work to do that.
Yeah.
Neurologically, it's a lot of work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can only make clear choices after I have really disentangled myself from my automatic mind. I actually have to sit with myself and do the I call it unhooking myself first,
Yeah,
right? Otherwise, I will, my choices will just come from my automatic patterns and my automatic
exactly.
thought habits. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is possible. And that rewiring of your nervous system. I know we have, slogans of you can't teach an old dog new tricks, which is hogwash. Like a nervous system can be rewired. Some can get rewired really quickly, others it takes time. And
Yes.
because you're not seeing any progress, that can be very frustrating.
Mhm.
Yet it's always having patience of understanding everybody's process is different. You
Yes,
have to have grace and radical compassion for yourself through this healing process,
for
because
sure.
rewiring is warrior work.
Absolutely. It is warrior work, but it is the most rewarding and gratifying work that there is. It literally changes your experience of every facet of your life. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Because what I'm navigating, even this past like 3 days, uh,
Hmm.
a funeral, a friend took her life because of mental health.
Mm,
Another friend is in the hospital with cancer. I'm assisting another friend with cancer.
yes.
All the things and then, single parent with twin boys, all these things. And I'm like, if I didn't have the tools that I cultivated, I would be debilitated. I'd be done. I'd be gone and everything else. Because even people are asking me, like, how are you doing it? And it's like, because I've cultivated tools for like 10 years of
Yes.
being able to navigate and changing my lifestyle and
Yes.
acknowledging what I'm feeling and what I'm capable of. Yet
Yeah.
if I didn't, oh, like the old part before the lesions, oh, I'm sure alcohol would be involved, some kind of stimulants, running away, trying to find different highs and stuff like that, where it's like, no, stay within yourself. All the tools are within yourself.
Yes.
And navigating the as is of what there is, not changing what the story, how you want it to be.
That's right.
But being in that present, it's being in the helplessness is the fire gets pretty hot sometimes.
Yes.
It gets
Yes.
very hot. Yeah, what I always remind myself is, you know what? It's just taking away the impurities so that you can be in that present moment, and
Yeah.
also refining the language and the skills that, you know what? I've walked the walk that I'm talking. It's
Absolutely.
not just coming from theory or textbooks or what you can apply to. A lot of this is lived experience. So when people are like, well, where'd you get this wisdom? And I'm like, lived experience. So
Absolutely.
not
Yes.
just telling you what a textbook or what theory is telling you, it's actual things that I've applied in my own life, and you are feeling the benefit of that.
Absolutely. And applying it to some of the hardest, most painful circumstances that there are. So it's extraordinary. Where can my listeners find you, Nat?
My website is liftoneself.com. So that's LIFTONESELF.com. They can go on my website. I have some meditation on there. I have, you can do a 15-minute free discovery call to see if we can work together. I also have a podcast, which is Lift OneSelf, also, where I have conversations. My main thing is to remove the stigma around mental health so that people can have tools. And I talk to people all around the world and
Mm,
get really diving deep and hearing different modalities that people can access. And I'm also on social media under Lift OneSelf, where I leave, different, sometimes it's a breathing technique, sometimes it's some philosophy, sometimes it's my own experiences that I'm relating to other people so that they
mm.
can, be honest with themselves. So I have a lot of free content out there because my main thing is I don't want people to feel like they have to do it alone.
Yes.
And if they're willing to do that work, then the content that I'm giving you, it has results.
Great. Great. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your profound journey with all of us.
Well, thank you for having me, and please remember to be kind to yourself.
Yes. Thank you.